Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you and the Ranking Member McGovern, and thank the Chairwoman for mentioning the situation in Minnesota. I would encourage her to make sure the investigation that's done includes state officials. When they're locked out, it just looks like a cover-up. And that one person that we all know will be involved in that, and that is our former colleague Keith Ellenson, who has an excellent reputation of openness, and we can expect a good investigation from him. Locking him and state officials out, I think, sends the wrong message. But I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to go over these 5 bills. Too many Americans today work hard but still cannot afford the basics, such as groceries, rent, utilities, even more. They're also struggling to have enough money for the little extras to have a good slice of life of the American dream, like owning a home, taking your family on vacation, or even going to a restaurant occasionally. Simply put, the economy is just not working for everybody, considering that according to Moody's Analytics, the top 10% of earners are accounting for nearly 50% of all consumer spending in America. Obviously, we need some improvements. But even to make matters worse, last week's Bureau of Labor Statistics 2025 was the worst year for job growth in this country since President Trump's first term. You'd have to go back to 2009 to find the worst job year reported. Point out that 2025 had 3 years of job loss. President Biden went 48 consecutive months with no job loss. He created by now millions of jobs in his first term. Trump, in his first year, only a few 100,000. Despite this reality, this week the Republicans are now considering 5 bills that would actually cut workers' wages, undermine workers' retirement savings, and give corporations and bad employers more loopholes to take advantage of their workers. One, the Protecting Prudent Investment of Retirement Savings, that's the first bill, is premised on the Republicans' mistaken belief that they know best when it comes to investing workers' retirements. Under present law, retirement plan fiduciaries are required to make prudent investment decisions in the best interest of the plan participants and beneficiaries. The bill codifies 2 rules from the Trump administration's from the first Trump administration that imposed first-of-their-kind restrictions on plan fiduciaries' ability to consider what's called environmental, social, or governance, ESG factors when making up investment decisions and exercise their shareholder rights. Appropriate course of action, which was enacted in prior rules, is to permit planned fiduciaries to consider ESG factors so long as they don't diminish investment returns. As we know, such factors, whether it be rising sea levels or poor corporate governance practice, are relevant to a company's performance when retirement savings, which retirement savers invest in. It is sensible for plan fiduciaries to be permitted to consider such factors and be able to adopt them if they don't reduce investment returns, but unfortunately the Trump administration is working away from those rules, and now the House is continuing to go in the wrong direction. Prohibiting even consideration of sea level rise that might put a real estate development underwater in 20 years just doesn't make sense. You can't prohibit them considering it. So so-called woke funds actually do better than many funds that are not saddled with these restrictions, and certainly do much better investments in retirement funds and crypto investments, which have recently been approved. Finally, H.R. 2988 would undermine worthwhile efforts to increase diversity among asset managers. The GAO noted several years ago that only 1% of the $70 trillion in global assets under management is managed by firms owned by women or people of color. That's 2/3 of the population, 1%. There's no research to support the suggestion that non-diverse firms, those without diversity, outperform diverse firms. This would needlessly undermine what little progress has been made and actually raises questions about what problem we're trying to solve. 1% today. Are people so offended that women and minorities got 1% that we want to change the rules to make sure that they don't even get that? Is that the goal of this provision? For these reasons, I oppose that bill and encourage colleagues to do the same. Next bill is Empowering Employer Child Elder Care Solutions Act, which would cut workers' wages. Under current law, employers must pay non-exempt workers the time and a half overtime premium for working more than 40 hours a week. That's just not 1.5 times hourly wage, but 1.5 times their regular rate of pay, which includes non-wage compensation, now including the value of any child or dependent care services that are provided as a benefit. This bill would change the Fair Labor Standards Act to remove the value of those services from regular pay under the guise of something, and in the existing law already sets up modest incentives for child and dependent care. You can deduct the benefit as an ordinary cost of doing business. There are also some additional tax preferences for these kinds of child and dependent care benefits, but the bill purports to support families by encouraging businesses to help with child and elder care, but there's no provision in the bill that requires you to do it. In practice, it incentivizes employers to put pressure on employers to stay on the job longer, rather than expanding access to affordable care and just redefining the cost, just reducing the cost of overtime. Instead of helping families, the bill risks increasing time workers are kept away from their loved ones, thereby increasing, not decreasing, the need for care, while providing none of that care. Fails to address the core problem facing many Americans, that is affordability of child and elder care. Now, it does reduce overtime pay. So that you got people who already have this benefit, that benefit will be will be eliminated from the calculation of their overtime pay, so they'll get less. Those that don't have it, not necessarily get it or not get it. So the only people that we know will be affected by the bill are those who are already getting the benefit, and they'll lose overtime. Next, we have the Save Local Businesses Act, which just does the opposite of what it says. Labor employment laws have long held that when a company that signs a worker's paycheck shares authority over terms and conditions of employment with other companies, multiple businesses may as a result be accountable for complying with the law. That's called joint employment. This bill, however, creates a situation where the National Labor Relations Board, are you cutting me off?
Well, I'm trying not to, but I need you to hurry up because we're way over your 5 minutes.
Okay. Rewriting the rules on who counts as a joint employer, the bill strips workers and protections that they've relied on for decades and usually leave the small business responsible for actions taken by a completely different company. If more than one company controls a decision affecting your job, both companies should be accountable. Let me just say that on the tipped employer situation, this creates a situation where people who are tipped employees gives the employer the opportunity to have a little loophole by having people who are paid the tipped wage, $2.13 an hour, and apply that to work they're doing that is not covered by the tipped wage. You get that when people are working as a restaurant server and as a line cook and going back and forth. Right now, you can only apply the tipped wage for the tipped work. This would fuzzify that line, and you'd really get credit for both. That's not a good idea. And finally, the flexibility for workers' education. This just means that if you don't technically require, if people know they're only going to get a raise if they take this extra course, they take the course, spend those extra hours working, they don't have to be paid. Right now, they have to be paid. If you tell them to go to work, take this course, they have to be paid their hourly rate for that course. And so for these reasons, we were trying to give the workers a leg up, not cut their wages and make life more difficult for them. So all of these bills should be opposed.